Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our Restaurant Brand Builder. My name is Jay Fenster. I'm a corporate marketing manager at Outfront, and I will be moderating today's event. Here, we'll share the secrets of the most successful restaurants. You'll learn how they utilize out-of-home advertising to influence hungry passersby, not just to have a meal with them, but to download their app, visit their website, or post about them to social media. Our goal for today is for you to come away feeling inspired to leverage out-of-home for your own goals. Because at Outfront, it's our mission to help people, places, and business grow stronger. We've got a lot of expertise on our panel today. Joining us to talk about how and why out-of-home works for restaurants, we have Christine Rose, West Region Marketing Director. Then, Studios Art Director Drew Bolen will show off some of our in-house team's best work in this category. We are really excited to share with you the story of this month's spotlight advertiser, Flying Biscuit Cafe. They used out-of-home to fuel their growth from 5 stores to a current 24. And just opened their store number 25 this month. Restaurant openings are notoriously time-consuming, and sadly for us, our guest speaker from Flying Biscuit is thus unable to join us today. Fortunately, we've added to the panel 2 experts from the Outfront side, Rich Hughes and Nolen, who have worked closely with Flying Biscuit throughout our partnership. They'll be able to tell you in great detail just how Flying Biscuit has been able to achieve their incredible growth story. At the conclusion of our moderated panel, we'll open up the floor to audience questions. If you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to ask using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We will answer as many as we have time for at the conclusion of today's event. And with that, I will hand it off to Christine.
Thank you, Jay, and hi, everyone. As Jay mentioned, my name is Christine Rose, and I'm the Regional Marketing Director for the West Region. Today, we'll explore consumer behavior, industry trends, and what's its evolution mean for brands like yours. Next, we'll talk about how and why out-of-home drives results for the restaurant industry. After that, and one of our favorite parts of the presentation, we'll showcase some of the best effective and impactful creative examples from brands like yours. And as Jay mentioned, we'll roll right into the roundtable discussion with our group of panelists and their experiences with out-of-home. All right, let's kick it off with how you can use out-of-home advertising to target your desired audiences. So to start off, let's talk about the state of the restaurant industry. The pandemic accelerated several operational adaptations that helped restaurants survive over the past couple years. They include new transaction technologies, outdoor dining, enhanced off-premise services, alcohol to go, and more. The technology we're seeing in restaurants provide a competitive edge, and many plan to increase that tech over time. Outdoor dining is also going to become more common this year. Looking at takeout delivery, it will remain core priorities going forward. Pre-pandemic dining experiences are returning, and consumers are enthusiastic about dining out more in 2022. However, 1 in 2 adults say purchasing takeout or delivery food is still essential to the way that they live. Restaurants can also differentiate on quality and experience to drive visitation. Consumers are looking to treat themselves and try new foods in 2022. Restaurants are well positioned to deliver on these unique experiences and dishes that are difficult to recreate at home, and they should use this opportunity to innovate and play with new unfamiliar flavors and ingredients. By focusing on improving the dining experience both on and off premise, this will resonate with consumers that are looking to restaurants for both quality and convenience. Americans are driving more miles than ever and noticing out-of-home when they do. This is important as out-of-home is part of the customer journey to and from work, the gym, the grocery store, and many more. Total miles driven by Americans are up 8% year over year to a record high. And over 80% of consumers say they are noticing out-of-home on both highways and local roads. Now we'll shift focus and explore some of the macro trends shaping this industry right now. So first up, strike now to steal occasions. Rising prices and economic concerns coupled with the experience-hungry diners certainly point to signs of intensified competition for the share of the stomach. The time is right for restaurants to step on the gas and lean into marketing and promotions to steal occasions from competitors in all directions. Reinforce the customer base and set sights on expansion. Millennials and parents are valuable diner patrons and should remain in focus, yet there is ample room to grow frequency and the audience on either end of the age spectrum with both older and younger diners. Lastly, convey value and convenience through versatility. To steal occasions, elevating positioning and perceptions of both convenience and experience will be important, and the value and versatility may be the connectors. One way restaurants can enter the consideration set more often is to communicate messages that drive home versatility, to be an option for any time, any occasion through convenience services and diversified menus. Now, consumer priorities are evolving, but interest in dining out remains stronger than expected. This is largely due to the pent-up demand resulting from the pandemic and increased reliance on food services as employees return to the office. While most consumers are dining out less often due to inflation, about 1/3 are still choosing to trade down rather than trade out. So they are opting for less expensive restaurant and meal options to counter those rising prices. Beyond price, consumers want to hear about new products and limited time offers. Since 82% of diners are interested in trying new items and 81% often order specials, this represents a significant opportunity for restaurants to utilize dynamic digital out of home. So what are a few trends we're seeing on out of home for restaurants? First, 3D embellishments like these, this iconic Chick-fil-A cows that literally pop right after the ad. And directional, they set a strong presence with directional boards that effectively entice travelers to break from driving and grab that delicious food. Lastly, rising from the forgotten technology ashes, the QR code became ubiquitous in the restaurant space. Now that diners have become accustomed to this contactless technology, restaurants are combining QR codes with out-of-home advertising to create that frictionless experience and drive customers to the conversions of their choosing. Clearly, creative is key, and Drew will touch on this in a bit more. But first, let's move into how and why out-of-home gets results. While the lines between our digital, virtual, and physical lives continue to blur, we've continued to see digital burnout and fatigue rise. The majority, 63% of us, are feeling the effects of digital burnout. And even more of us, 75%, are skipping ads, making it harder for advertisers to break through digitally. On top of that, over 1/3 of consumers are actively trying to decrease their screen time. It's becoming clear that audiences are ready to spend less time in front of screens and more time engaging in the real experiences outside of the home. Out of home is seeing heightened awareness, a rise in trust, and increased ability to drive action. 70% of consumers have an increased awareness and appreciation of out of home versus pre-pandemic. 58% of consumers consider out of home to be the most trustworthy medium, and 66% take some form of mobile action after seeing out of home. So QSR and out of home go together like burgers and fries. Now, why is that? The overlap between those who notice out of home and those who eat at QSRs is significant, with 88% of consumers who notice out of home dine at QSRs and 73% of diners pay attention to out of home. So consumers are not just noticing out of home, they're engaging too. The notice of out of home QSR ads lead to in-store purchases and online activation. In fact, out of home QSR engaged almost 9 in 10 recent viewers. 67% of those who saw a QSR out-of-home ad made a purchase at the physical store. And between 16 and 39% made some form of online activation, whether it be a website visit, an app download, or a QR code. One of my favorite stories in out of home and the restaurant category, if you're unfamiliar, is the chicken sandwich wars. So let me explain. If you can recall the craziness that occurred back in 2019 when Popeyes launched their chicken sandwich to their menu. Since then, Popeyes launched their chicken sandwich. Many competitors have followed suit and launched their own take on the fan favorite, battling for market share among breaded chicken connoisseurs. So with all that added competition, where does out-of-home play a part in the media plans for these brands? by leveraging the power of creative excellence and unbeatable locations. KFC's first campaign for the new chicken sandwich included a massive out-of-home placements in major cities that literally sit on top or next to their main competitors. It truly makes those customers second guess their decision, as well as plant the idea to visit a KFC location in the future. At Outfront, we are the most visible media platform in the US, reaching 75% of the population weekly, with a powerful platform of 651,000 assets across the country. Out-of-home is woven into the fabric of the communities. It's always on and has the power to steer public discourse with immense cultural impact. Our mission at Outfront is to deliver impactful and engaging interactions with audiences as they live their lives. This is achieved through what we call TLC, utilizing sophisticated technology to increase consumer engagement, to targeting audiences where they are, have been, and will be, and using big, bold, and beautiful creative to drive home your message. I'll now pass it over to Drew to walk us through the examples of the best-in-class industry creative.
All right, well, thank you, Christine. Hello. Hello, thanks, Christine. My name is Drew, and I've been with Outfront since 2014, and I'm currently serving as a National Associate Creative Director. And today I want to introduce you to Outfront Studios and talk about ways we can be involved with the creative process and share a few successful examples of that. Next slide, please. Let's go. All right. So Studios is the creative wing of Outfront, and the little map up in the corner shows a span of about 50 creatives nationwide, meaning we're able to speak the language of a local market or scale larger national campaigns across the country. And with that, over the past 7 years, we've earned over 150 awards and have been published in some of the biggest names in media. We're able to do this with client collaboration with folks like y'all, creating full campaign paths with an out-of-home foundation. Next slide, please. So either big or small, we can tailor our services to best fit our partners' needs. We can lay the brand foundation and help start the advertising process from the bottom up. We can simply help an agency understand our creative capabilities to get out of the box with something totally unique or maybe location-based. We can create full campaigns that scale locally, nationally, maybe dominate an entire train station or maybe just one street corner. Or if the campaign is already created, we can help scale that across the country. We have thousands of inventory pieces and sizes that can all be very confusing, but with our help, we don't need you to worry about that. So what we've done here with Boston Market is a great mix of many of these directions, creating a large scale campaign across all out-of-home media types, mobile, social media, and beyond. And we'll highlight some successful examples of these features in a bit, but I want to tell you a bit about why I love this kind of collaboration first. I love out-of-home because we're truly making a difference. We're making a difference in the visual landscape and changing the perception of ads we're seeing every single day. And I love doing everything from helping first-time business owners realize their dreams to maybe providing health and safety resources to those in need. So when our creative is on such a huge stage, we have an obligation to keep it at its highest level. And I'm proud to be with Outfront specifically, who's doing the right thing for not just creative, but for our neighborhoods. Next slide, please. So some examples of this, one great one here is Dunkin'. Over the course of the year, Dunkin' used a variety of unique creative possibilities to keep their message fresh and inspiring. They used 3D, specific location targeting, seasonal messaging for the holidays, digital billboard day parting, weather triggers. What I'm getting at is there's an abundance of unique and creative ways to approach out-of-home campaigns, and we can help bring those to life to keep the heads turning. And next slide, please. The big catch here basically invented an iconic location that was located behind the restaurant. In the middle of their campaign, people started requesting the Big Catch billboard location. And it wasn't because it was at the highest trafficked intersection, or it wasn't the biggest billboard or the one that got the most views. It was because their creative was so captivating. And they did this a number of ways. They did this by installing a 3D fish on top of their roof that played off of the billboard in the background. They installed real patio lights and real tiki torches when advertising the renovated patio. They engaged with their audience, which is a really important one. They engaged with their audience by putting their customers' best jokes on a billboard. In this case, maybe not the best joke, but it is a joke. I think most of all, they just had fun. Advertising doesn't always need to be so stuffy and formal. Often our question is, how does this benefit the audience? Is the message an assignment or is it entertainment? Next one, please. So again, studios will tailor out of home to your specific needs, whether it's helping building a brand foundation for your very first ad or elevating an existing national franchise. We want to think about how out of home can scale upward, thinking about digital campaigns, mobile, social capabilities, and so on. Basically, it doesn't end with a billboard. There's several possibilities with Outfront and studios that include full brand campaigns and the team partnership that involves. Next. So when creating a marketing plan, think about what gets you excited. What gets you excited about advertising? Is the direction unique? How is it helping others? Are you engaging with the community? And as part of that community, what makes you say, wow? This is a good quote here from our National Creative Director, Eddie Hurdy. I haven't found it to be false just yet, but I want everyone to think about the personality of your ads. And if somebody is saying the message in your ad, who is that? Is it Muhammad Ali or is it Toby from The Office? It's two very different things. So it's not necessarily the message, it's how you say it. So if you'd like to get to know the studios team, we'd love to help find out what it is. And with that, I want to thank you for listening to me. If it's not too late, I think it's time to talk about breakfast.
It's never too late to talk about breakfast.
That's right.
So now it's time to take a deep dive into the story of our spotlight advertiser, Flying Biscuit Cafe. So I want to welcome once again Rich and Nelson. Thank you both for joining us. This should be a lively conversation, and if our audience would like to be a part of it, don't hesitate to ask your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So Rich, you facilitated a collaboration between Outfront Studios and Flying Biscuit. What was noteworthy about that process?
Absolutely. The Flying Biscuit's a local homegrown brand here in Atlanta. I used to go to their single store when it was downtown. I lived about a block away, and they're just an amazing, whimsical, fun brand that, once you discover them, you learn how great the food is. And early on in their franchise launch process, we engaged the Flying Biscuit with some ideas. We basically asked them, can we play in the sandbox? Can we bring some ideas to you to show you how we can really popularize your brand in the neighborhoods that you're opening new stores? Can we show you how we can target audiences through mobile geofencing and targeting? And most of all, can we, make your brand famous through out-of-home campaign design and development? And I think that's one of the greatest parts of our process, and the privilege of working with Outfront is that we do engage our clients to discover their brand, to discover their audience. And in this case, the design team and the members of the design team who worked on the campaign actually went to breakfast and lunch at the Flying Biscuit to really, truly understand the store, the retail environment. And I think the most outstanding thing about the process is we really do care. And we really are trying to change the future of out of home from that old boring billboard that, maybe you see, on the side of the farmer's field. We're really making a dynamic impact and really caring about each client's campaign.
Drew, I'd like to hear about that collaboration from the studio's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I've spent about $6,000 at the Flying Biscuit, so I was very aware of the restaurant. I used to live down the street as well. As my favorite spot. So I was happy when this job came through. But, the collaboration, that is just absolute key for the success of a campaign. I can make cool stuff all day. It's great, but it's cool and great to me without the collaboration of getting all the parties together, the studio's creative team, the marketing team, the sales team, and having the client to be there for all of that is incredibly important. Without that, we can't understand the goals of the customer and really the vision that they have. So, our job is to make that vision come to life. It's just absolutely imperative for full team collaboration.
So this next question is for Rich and Nelson. I would like to hear a little bit about where Flying Biscuit was before engaging with Outfront and how our engagement helped them grow.
I'll take this one for starters. Thank you very much, everyone, for being on this program. It's a real opportunity to highlight a local client. So Flying Biscuit really started as a neighborhood, groovy, kind of a cool, hip and trendy single store restaurant, and then there was a franchise group that bought the brand, and they were going to a growth mode, but they wanted to keep the same feel of the neighborhood, fresh, made to order, breakfast and lunch, no dinner, very fresh ingredients, and really kind of groovy, artsy deal, because they were very sensitive. They wanted to keep that sort of image, right? So we're being very familiar. They were probably about 4 or 5 stores in Atlanta when we really engaged with them. We knew them from some previous projects and brands that they had. This is an offshoot of the Moe's Southwest Grill group. Some of the guys are the same people, big franchise model, heavy growth and all that kind of thing. And now Moe's is huge, as many of you probably know. So that's where these guys were coming from. And they wanted to be sensible to the brand, right? To keep it to feel like a neighborhood groovy joint, even though some of the new ones might be in a strip mall or might be freestanding or, might be some sort of in the middle of a neighborhood or in the middle of a shopping area. So as you can see by this, by the slide here, this was the result of the creative collaboration. And that meeting was incredible. We had the CEO and then the marketing director. And then there was 3 or 4 artists. Rich was there from the marketing standpoint. I was there from the sales standpoint to try to keep the pieces of the strategy, having the ads. We had the messaging right. We had the creative right, and getting the right time and the right placement of the ads is also a big part of it. So as you can see here, we used big extensions. The bus wrap was just awesome. They kept that for probably 3 years. They would do contests about bring a picture of the bus in, get a free biscuit. They really got into this. And then if you see the shelters right here, there were some neighborhood, they were tucked into some neighborhoods that really didn't have traditional bulletins on the highways and that kind of thing. And when that need was needed, like in Atlanta, in some of the neighborhoods, Collier Hills, and then also we would use the shelters. And then in Dallas, we used the kiosks right downtown because they had a brand new store, and we used emerging markets for them because in Dallas and Houston, the brand did not exist. So we were starting from scratch. So this is how we introduced the Flying Biscuits to new markets, and this is how we did it. And you can see it made an impression.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, Nelson, if you don't mind, because when we first started working with the Flying Biscuit, they had 5 stores.
Yep.
And then shortly after we launched their brand campaign, which by the way, they extended into other things I think we'll talk about. But shortly after that, in 2 years, they grew to 10 stores. Then through COVID, surviving COVID, they've grown double that. And they're now, as Jay mentioned, at 25 stores. They have an expected growth of up to 50 stores in the next 2 years. So they attest, and they will tell you, and I'm sorry he's not on the call, but the fact that the CEO of the business is not on the call because he has to greet customers and open new stores is kind of a testament to their success. But the branding, how we approach the branding, how we approach the campaign, and the value of out of home in the marketplace is a key part of their growth and their success.
Okay. You talked a little bit about location there, and I want to switch gears for a second, Christine. Tell us a little bit about how national brands like Golden Corral and McDonald's use out-of-home to point passersby their way.
Yeah, great question, Jay. Those are called directional billboards, and those are used on major interstates, enticing travelers to really take that break from driving and visit a business. Think about it. You're driving down on the road and suddenly your stomach tells you you're hungry. Yep, it's time for lunch. Then you drive by a billboard promoting a nearby restaurant and bingo, you're there. That is truly the beauty of out-of-home advertising. It's visible, immediate, and you can't turn it off. For restaurants specifically, this is a tried and true marketing tactic and has been proven to drive traffic, serving to remind and entice those hungry consumers. You mentioned McDonald's, Jay, and that's one of my favorite directional campaigns. They use its famous golden arches to direct commuters into its restaurants by sharing just bits of those famous golden arches upon billboards to either turn right or turn left. And that was definitely one of my favorite use cases of the directional board for the restaurants.
Okay, so next I want to talk a little bit more about that creative synergy between studios and Flying Biscuit. So that artwork didn't just end up on billboards. How else did Flying Biscuit's partnership with us help them build their brand?
I can take
Nelson,
that one.
Drew,
Nelson, Nelson, Rich.
Drew, you.
Yeah, well, there was an expansion beyond, I think, so much, building the brand from such a foundational point of this was, the success of the out-of-home campaign was great. But additionally to that, what we wanted to think about is how their brand from inside of the store can reach just beyond out-of-home. I spoke to it a minute ago about how does that look on a t-shirt? How does that look on signage outside of the restaurant? How does that look for special events? Can they use specific copy outside of the out-of-home campaign for their actual brand outside of the store and partner with that? So thinking about things like what's a mug look like that they could sell behind the counter, or a hat and things like that. How does that brand translate beyond the out-of-home space? We want to really approach in the best light the brand existing and living to its fullest potential.
Yeah, that's a great point, Drew. So the first thing, once all the creative designs were signed off on and it was a go, right? The boards start going up, major impact, all over Instagram, just fantastic, awesome interstate locations, just overriding the whole scene. Peachtree Road, which is a big deal in Atlanta. Right there in Buckhead, big neighborhood, hot area. So it was within a couple of weeks, they approached us to buy the assets, the layered files, and those kinds of things. And they did awnings for some of their new stores that had all this imagery that we created, that our studios team created. So next thing you know, they had murals inside. They have cool, groovy murals inside the store, inside the actual restaurants. They use some of it on their menus. You mentioned t-shirts, mugs. They used it across the board on their merchandising. Okay, they had vehicle wraps. They had their wrap bus with Outfront, and then they would have their wrap catering vans that looked like the wrap bus. And it just exploded and it was a homogeneous imagery for the brand throughout. From when you see the billboard, you hire them for catering. Guess what? The catering van shows up in your driveway and it looks like that. And then you go into the stores and then the menu and everything, it really can snowball into something that really is amazing. And it's for their brand. And, they're still using this stuff, and they're opening in Durham, North Carolina this week. It is just amazing how the creative meeting with all of our studios and the two brand people that really run the show, and they were just so impressed with it, and we opened it up to them and they made it where they could utilize our concepts, and it was just awesome, right?
We'll love to see it. So we've talked a lot about creative. I want to switch gears for a moment and talk tactics for a second. So Christine, this next question is for you. What are some of the ways that restaurants can use QR codes in out-of-home campaigns? And beyond QR codes, how else are restaurants leveraging out-of-home's dynamic digital capabilities?
Yeah, no, great two questions, Jay. I'll kind of tackle them separately. I'll start with QR codes. So we know that QR codes are now a leading marketing and commerce tool. We've seen an untold number of physical menus swapped out with QR codes, driving diners to digital menus and smartphone scans facilitating contactless ordering and payment. Well, they're now being used by brands on out-of-home to virtually engage customers by either driving them to their website, to apps, social media accounts, the storefront, physically in person. Overall, QR codes are truly a crafty and convenient way to level up the out-of-home ad campaigns. So for instance, one restaurant can use multiple QR codes in multiple locations. A QR code could be included on a transit shelter outside a large conference center or a large business center, and could drive to takeout and delivery options because people are just getting out of work and they don't have the time to go ahead and cook when they get home. Well, while a QR code featured on billboards near the restaurant might actually drive people to limited time promotions or seasonal menus to kind of get them into the physical restaurant. Overall, QR codes really give out-of-home advertisers the agility to create unique, timely, and hyper-targeted ads to engage with your specific audience with the different calls to action depending on where they are and your targeting goals. So Jay, now you asked a little bit about digital out of home. So that is a powerful tool for restaurants to establish their identity and bring fresh creative campaigns to consumers. Restaurants in particular are notorious for playful ads that leverage clever sayings, timely news trends, and national holidays, often garnering media attention for their creativity in advertising. So talking about those national holidays, brands are using digital out-of-home around timely days like National French Fry Day or National Ice Cream Day to leverage that digital dynamic capabilities. They are also using it to advertise those limited time offers to drive consumers into the locations, giving the restaurants freedom to advertise these temporary offerings. And then they can also quickly be updated with the new deals, combo offerings, or menu launches to really resonate with their consumers. Earlier on, Drew talked about some weather triggers and time of days. We see that quite a bit from the restaurants advertising breakfast menu items in the morning, or maybe a warm coffee when the weather's cold. So there's certainly a lot we're seeing with the restaurants in digital and QR codes implementation.
Okay, thank you, Christine. So that brings us to the audience Q&A portion of our event. So if you have questions for any of our panelists, feel free to add them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And the first question we have, Drew, this one is for you. What would you say to restaurants who want to leverage out of home to establish and reinforce their brand aesthetic the way that Flying Biscuit did?
Great. That's a great question. You know, so many restaurants have the best coffee. So many have the cheapest prices. You know, everybody's the cheapest. Everybody's the best. I would suggest thinking about, to start, what truly makes you unique. What makes you stand out from the crowd? Whether it's maybe there's a cute black cat that sits outside of the door and greets people as they come in. Everybody knows the cat, you know. Is it the person behind the front desk that you see when you walk in the store who has good jokes? Is it, in Flying Biscuit's case, hand-painted murals on the walls? What can we grab onto that you have that nobody else does? And how can we bring that atmosphere to the streets? Often we say, like, you know, like, I wonder what it's like in there. And so much for us is like helping introduce the brand to somebody in a car. It's a tough job. So when we can take the excitement and the personality from inside of that store and make that alive on the streets, I think that's when we find the most success and have, you know, the most beautiful, successful campaigns that are posted.
Okay, thanks, Drew. Now this next one, I think, would make a decent lightning round question. So, Rich, let's start with you on this one, and we'll just go around the round table. What advice would you give to a restaurant that's a first-time out-of-home advertiser?
Well, I would say don't consider yourself too small. I think a lot of times when restaurant brands look at out of home, they say to themselves, well, I'm not Burger King or I'm not McDonald's. The fact of the matter is that out of home can make your brand popular and it can turn a small company into a big company. So I would highly encourage you to engage Outfront specifically, because we really do strive to define your brand and make it great. But I would say give it a try and don't think you're too small.
All right, Christine, what advice would you have to offer?
Yeah, I would definitely say by partnering with Outfront Studios specifically, restaurants can really feed into the creative expertise of our studios team. As Drew mentioned, it's our in-house agency, and they can really help you, as you heard from Flying Biscuits, imagine a campaign that really gets mouths watering.
Nelson, what about you?
Yeah, thanks very much. That is a great question. And when someone starts and it's a first time, it is an introduction to the market, right? So very generally, that's what you need. You need to start with who you are, what you do. So for instance, I wrote down some notes as we were coming through this and our discovery with Brent Fuller, the CEO. You know, we spent a lot of time, we rode the market, saw the 5 that they had. Each one is a little bit, is really identify where you are, who you're trying to reach. What else do you have going on? Okay, they had the new openings. They were also trying to sell franchises. Okay, so we had that messaging out there. It's if I was a restaurateur engaging with an agency like ours, it's try to get full disclosure out there so that we have everything that we have to work with. It's like our objective, our homework list. And these guys were an open book for us. They welcomed us in. And we, like I say, the creative staff had a couple meals there. They covered everything. I mean, they were super nice. And they really gave us the discovery that we needed. And I hope that makes sense. As to what they need and what their objectives are. It's very important.
Drew, you've offered a lot of great advice so far. What is the number one thing you would tell to a first timer?
Got it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
I think, just, you got to jump out of the plane with creative anyway. Just don't be afraid. Just try something new, try something different. And, look at it from your perspective. If you're reading your ad and you're not getting excited about it, we can't expect anybody else to. So see it with fresh eyes and don't be afraid.
Okay. Thanks, Drew. So I think we've got time for one last question, and it's a good one. What's the best thing to order on the Flying Biscuit menu? Who wants to jump in on this one first?
I just love their biscuits. They actually, it's a Flying Biscuit. You get a biscuit with anything you order, and they serve it with apple butter, and the apple butter is what gets me. So, a couple of those, that'll do it.
Ditto. They've got a great gravy as well for this biscuits. Everything's from scratch. The recipe is like under lock and key somewhere. Coca-Cola's got nothing on that recipe, right? It's awesome.
I would say whipped butter grits. Absolutely incredible on the menu.
All right. Well, now that we've making everybody on this call hungry for breakfast at 2:45 in the afternoon, I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today. I want to thank each of our panelists for joining us as well. For those of you who have wanted to watch this again and again, we will be releasing a video. You'll probably have it in your email inbox by the end of the day tomorrow. So you will be able to share it with your friends and relive this wonderful moment again and again. So thank you everyone for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.